Good afternoon. Hello from England. It's very nice today. It's very warm. We're seeing sort of one last throw of the dice, one last throw of summer, even though we're expected more storms soon. Our summer hasn't been great this year. It hasn't been great for a few years now. We get concentrated sun for a good 2-3 weeks, but then we usually get sun, rain, sun, rain, sun, rain. And we should be really entering autumn now, but yeah, it's pretty nice out here. So I hope you're all doing good. I hope life is treating you okay. In my last video I sort of touched on the idea of being self-absorbed, and I want to make the video now where I talk about that. Being self-absorbed is something what has always fascinated me from a very young age, because when I talk about something like this, we usually lose control of the words. So self-absorbed means something if you put it to the Oxford Dictionary, but by the time we finish this video we will have looked at it from so many different angles. There's going to be all sorts of things creeping in: jealousy, control, ego. But to go the long way around, when I was a kid I noticed that if something good would happen to me, I would act humble, because I didn't like people who acted overly confident or celebrated too hard. So if I scored a goal in football, I'd play it off. I might do a little sign to a god I don't believe in. I might high five a friend. I might do a little smile, but my emotion was always kept in. And you then start to realize that being humble and being respectful of others is its own form of ego. It's your own form of being self-indulgent, because you're basically using a practice where I am being so for example, now I'm trying to come across honest to you guys. I am also kind of manipulating you, which is really fascinating. And that sort of little mechanism, what I've just described there, we can then go through life and we can then think our path, our destiny, and our beliefs are the truth. And we can talk about things when people are honest, they give a written version of that honesty. It's like people are handing in a paper. They want the overall subject to appear honest, but they've actually manipulated many of the mechanisms that surround it, and they know exactly what to say. They are sharing just enough, and they are sharing just as much as society can take at that moment. And some people push it a little bit more, and those are the people we seem to like. The people just creep over the line of going from something what's written to unwritten. As we walk through our lives individually, we are the character of our own play, i.e. life. Some of us can see where other people are coming from a little bit more, but most of us are just in our own minds. We are absorbed in what we think is the truth. We're absorbed in what we think is a good life, and we are absorbed in ourselves. And part of growing older is overcoming that sort of sensation. I think when you're younger and you're finding yourself, I think you have to be absorbed. And we're always going to be absorbed with ourselves, because we have to look after this being. We have to progress it through life, and we have to try and do what we think is best. We will read a book and we'll find a piece of information what strikes our ideology, and we will move our path into its path so we can navigate through life in a way what will be healthy to our body. when I was younger, I absolutely adored writers that were so self-absorbed. All they could do was just write about their hardships and their self, and everything was through their perspective. And because their perspective was dangerous or dirty, or I was addicted because I felt myself the outsider. So I then find myself amongst those people. As you grow older, you see that the outsiders are just as self-absorbed as who the outsiders are poking fun of. And then it leaves you with this as you grow older, you live with this really, it's kind of, I guess the word is peace. You get this peace of mind where you realize, let's say if you're working in a field, let's say I always use a restaurant for example, because it's just like it's usually the field where everybody starts in. It's like people's first job, so it's a good way to, it's a good analogy I find. So when you're working in a restaurant, you will sometimes come to the conclusion that the bartender might be faster than you, and you're never gonna get that fast. Somebody might be more passionate than you, somebody might be better with people than you, and you slowly work out that you're good at something that other person isn't good at. And when you get into later life, you sort of lose that self-absorbed. I think most of us do because it's sort of beaten out of us. But I think the people that don't lose that are the people what are sort of given this path, and the path is always funded, the path is always moving, they're always getting recognition. Because if you do something on social media, on the internet, and you get 1 million likes, 1 million subscribers, it doesn't mean what you're doing is moral, it doesn't mean what you're doing is of value. But what it does do to the person who's made that content, it says to that person that what they have done is working. So usually we all are very fast to lose our morals. Our moral compass just disintegrates. We can say to ourselves, I never want to leave this cafe. I love this town, I love my staff, I want to work here forever. And then all of a sudden another cafe opens and they offer you a better paycheck, and then you have to, then your own self-worth is sort of heightened in your own mind, and then you leave. Now, in my opinion, that's not actually breaking a moral, because that could be bettering yourself, that could be seeking a new challenge. So don't feel too bad about that sort of area. But I think the things what are said are the things what we remembered as a child, the things we wanted to do as a child, or the way we wanted to live our lives as a child. And then most of us, we don't listen to that inner child. We don't, not the inner child in another video spoken about. We don't listen to, and part of that is also maturity, but we don't listen to that person who was just so excited just to go somewhere and just be somewhere. And when we become absorbed in our own lives, we forget that. We forget the beautiful dreams we had as children. And I've always found that quite sad and quite disappointing. But it is a wonderful thing to step out of yourself. And when you do step out from yourself, you will actually find you will be more successful, because you aren't going to places. So if you go and do some climbing, you aren't going with this sort of ego. Your ego's hurting because these people know about climbing and I don't. These people are there to teach you. These people are there to help you. And what they teach you, you then will get stronger, and then you can teach somebody else. You will then start to go through life. I don't think you should listen to everybody, and I think you should pick and choose who you listen to, but you'll go through life much more content. And I think most of our self-absorbedness, which isn't even a word I don't believe, but I think it comes from when we're a teenager and we're finding ourselves, and we're finding our spirit, we're finding our passion, and something just clicks. It could be a style, it could be a career choice. We just find something what is our identity, and then we just sort of forget everybody else. Like, you could be into a band and you forget all of their bands exist. You forget, you could be into a writer and you think this style of writing is the best, but you don't try another style. You don't try and challenge yourself. And within that, we usually become quite egotistical. It's quite interesting to see. It's like we wear a certain style of clothes because we feel attractive in it, or we feel this is us, and then we go into society and society doesn't like it, and we use that as ammo to further fuel our beliefs. Well, I believe the humble thing to do is to not accept, but understand why society thinks like that, and I don't think you should change your identity because it's very important individuality. But I do think we do need to look at ourselves a lot more, and I do think we do need to look at what we are doing and what we are saying and the output we are giving, because I don't think we're a conscious collective anymore. I think we're moving in a very unconscious. I think we're in an unconscious stream now, and I think that might continue for a while, which is, or maybe forever now, which is kind of scary, because we're all just so absorbed in our own lives, and we're all doing what we need to do to progress our lives because we all kind of want to be the star of our own show. So I'm going to conclude the video here. I think this is more of a bird's eye look on the subject as opposed to dissecting it. But I definitely notice how I work now. Like, I used to do a piece of art for me, and I still do, but now I do it from a far out perspective. I'm not really making art directly about me. I'm not trying to say to people, like me because I'm intelligent, like me because I'm smart. I'm just trying to make a good piece of art. And not to say that the self-absorbed art isn't good, but I think things do get better, not necessarily when we're more inclusive, but when we do step out of ourselves. Okay, have a good week, enjoy yourselves out there, ciao.